Barbarian versus Necromancer, Ted. Who wins?
I don't know. I think the Barbarians are pretty tough.
Yeah, but Necromancers have super goth powers.
That is true. So what do you think the chances are that the Barbarian winds up as a rat in a soul cage, despite all their rage?
Hold on to your spell books, folks. We're going to be talking about D&D Wizard 5e, Flavors of Rage. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Maybe this is your first time hanging out in Ted's basement. It's a place where we like to talk about news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
All right, we recently did a video and basically talking about things you could do while you rage. And I was really shocked at how many people really dug that video. I thought it would be good. It would be some good discussion and it was fun to talk about. But people were really digging it and they were bringing up all kinds of different things because we basically did like an overview. We didn't break down the specific subclasses and stuff like that. So now we're going to look for opportunities within the Barbarian's Rage where you can mix it with specific subclasses to greater effect. And in this case, we're going to look at Wizard. And I think we came up with like 4 or 5 subclasses that it kind of mixes with, some better than others.
Well, one of the first, comments that I had seen was, on that video was like, well, what about Bladesinger?
Now, I am traditionally not a huge fan of the gishes when we're talking about optimization anyway. But when I went and looked at Bladesinger, because I saw the same comment, and I was like, oh my gosh, almost everything carries over. You literally only lose one ability from Bladesinger when you rage. As long as you don't use a shield, don't two-hand the weapon, everything else pretty much will stack, including that armor class bonus. Like, folks are always asking, does this stack with unarmored defense? And then the answer is pretty much always no, but it's a flat bonuses. Flat bonuses stack.
Yeah, most of the time it's a way of calculating your armor class. So anytime you see something that says, your armor class equals, and there's a formula, none of that is going to stack with anything else that has that formula of a part of it. But with Bladesinger, you add your intelligence modifier to your armor class as long as you're not wearing armor or a shield.
Right. So essentially, for the Bladesinger, I would say you could take all 14 levels of Wizard and then 6 levels of Barbarian, mix and match however you like, because pretty much all of your abilities from your Bladesinger is going to stack. So the Bladesinger song itself, you get to use twice per rest, and that's where we're going to delve into, I think, first and kind of like dissect that a little bit.
So as you brought up, you're going to get that intelligence modifier to your AC. So you're going to get Dex, Con, Intelligence, and as a Barbarian, you're probably going to want to have a decent Strength. So I would certainly want to go with a High Elf here, getting that Dex and Intelligence bonus.
Your other benefits is your walking speed is going to increase by 10 feet. Great for a Barbarian. They get fast movement eventually anyway. You're going to get advantage on acrobatic checks. I don't know how much it's going to come up, but if it does, you got it.
So, while you're raging, you're going to have advantage on your athletics checks. So this is going to be nice to be able to have both.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing is the concentration. On your concentration checks, you're going to get a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier. We're raging, so we won't be using that at all. All right, so the one thing is at 6th level, you get extra attack for being a Bladesinger. That's going to overlap with you being a Barbarian. Wherever you get it first, you're going to get it, but you're not going to double up on that.
It's a shame. But I mean, if you're looking at 14 levels of Wizard and 6 eventual levels of Barbarian, it's possible that you're, starting off as a Barbarian, focusing heavily on Wizard, and then every once in a while dabbling. So you might get it first in Wizard.
Absolutely. So one of the things that really works well with Rage and Bladesinging is Song of Defense, because it allows you to use your spell slots while you're raging. So essentially, as a reaction, you get hit by an attack, you can reduce the damage by 5 times the level of the spell slot you use. So this is an awesome way to use your spells while raging.
So, if you're not going to be casting your spells, there's a handful that you might want to use based on that other video we talked about that don't have concentration. So you can be a very gish, very melee-based, warrior, dancing around, singing around, raging all the time, but still be able to use those vast amounts of spell slots via this power.
Right. Also, I guess we got to backtrack a little bit and mention, in all fairness, you're not going to be raging and blade singing in the same round. It's going to take 2 rounds to actually activate everything, because rage is a bonus action, blade singing is a bonus action. So it'll take a little bit of time to get there.
I see some of this, with a barbarian that I play who fights with 2 weapons. I can't attack with both and rage in the same round.
But that being said, you might initiate Blade Song, cast a spell that doesn't require concentration, and then next round you go into your rage.
Very true.
So finally, the capstone ability for Bladesinger is Song of Victory. This is awesome because it adds your intelligence modifier to that damage you're doing.
This is going to stack on top of whatever stat modifier you're normally adding, so you're going to be hitting even harder. So nice.
So that sums up Bladesinger. Next up is War Mage. War Mage, the 2nd level abilities you get when you first take the tradition are pretty awesome, but after that, it really does require being a War Mage. So War Magic, 2nd level, what you're going to get Arcane Deflection and Tactical Wit.
So Tactical Wit is nice because it's going to be able to bump up your initiative. Super helpful when you're the barbarian that wants to be able to, number 1, be able to get that rage off so you can reduce damage, and be able to get into the thick doing the damage so you don't have to take the damage.
Now, Arcane Deflection is an awesome ability. Basically, as a reaction, you can get a +2 to armor class or a +4 to saving throws. There's a downside. After you use it, you can't cast a spell other than a cantrip.
Oh darn, I'm not casting a spell while I'm raging. So super helpful here.
Yeah, so two level dips for War Magic is basically all you're going to want to do.
So if you're looking to have just a mostly rage and wizard, that might be your go-to.
Yeah, so I feel like, now we're going to get into a little bit more of gray areas where you have to really want to play this type of character, because I don't think they're nearly as good as the other two. The dip is no big deal, and then the actual Bladesinger is actually an awesome combination. So before we get into our next school of magic, let's dive into our Patreon. We want to thank our Patreon supporters for making these videos possible, but also we would like to invite you to come over to Patreon and help us out over there. If you love what we do, if you enjoy the content we're doing, Patreon is just another way to support the channel. We're making products over there every month. We do Patreon-only hangouts. There's even ways where you could just one-on-one hang out with either me or Ted for an hour through a Google Hangouts or phone call even, or a Zoom chat. So there's a bunch of different benefits over there. We give away stuff here on the channel every month. By being a patron, you're automatically entered into those giveaways.
All of the information is over on our Patreon. There's a link in the description below. Go check out the reward levels. Those products we create, we do put them up on our store over on nerdarchy.com. But if you're a patron, not only do you get it cheaper, but you get it sooner.
Absolutely. So with that, let's jump back. And next we have Abjuration, School of Magic.
Abjuration is a really cool school of magic. I think some of those are, some of those weird oddity type things, but because of that, I think it makes for some really interesting stuff. But how does it mix with Barbarian, Dave?
So Arcane Ward is what you're after. You get it at 2nd level, and basically when you put this up, it's twice your wizard level plus your int mod in temporary hit points. So they have to blast through that first. And the great thing about it for an abjurer, maybe not for a barbarian abjurer though, is when you cast spells that are of the abjuration school, that's how you replenish the ward and keep your defenses up. Now you could set up your ward, you could use it, and you can go into your rage, but while you're raging, you're not going to be able to replenish it.
But if you are, dipping into wizard or spending a little bit of time there, it is some temporary hit points that does kind of, bridge the gap a little bit between, having the barbarian hit dice and the wizard hit dice.
Yeah, and you're gonna be able to use it over and over again in between your rages and setting yourself up.
Absolutely.
So that part's really cool. 6th level, you're gonna get another ability that actually is going to be useful while you're raging.
And that's going to be Protective Ward. So this is going to be like your Arcane Ward, but you've got the ability to use it as a reaction and to help somebody else.
So now we're getting into the higher level abilities. 10th level, basically useless for this combination because it really relies on you casting spells that you're you're not going to be able to do while you're raging. They're great abilities because you get really good at counterspelling and dispelling magic, but if you're looking to do it while you're raging, not going to happen.
But if you happen to decide, all right, I want to go, half and half, go, aim for a 10-10, you've got to be able to be like, hey, look, I haven't started combat yet, and somebody beats me on initiative and they're going to start casting spells. You could be a pretty decent counterspeller, and when you're outside of combat and you've encountered something, you've made the commitment that you're good at magic. So maybe there's the theme of the game is, you're going to go to areas and dispel things. Well, an Abjure is a good way to do it.
The 14th level ability, super awesome, even while you're raging. So 14th level, you're going to get spell resistance. What this means is you have advantage on all your saving throws versus spells, applies when you're raging, and you're also going to have resistance against any damage you take from a spell, including psychic damage. So this is super sweet, especially if you're not playing a totem barbarian.
This works out really well, so you'll be resisting more damage. Absolutely great for, those melee-based characters that a barbarian's going to be one.
Absolutely. So maybe your backstory is you started off as a barbarian and started learning magic, and you still progressed as a barbarian a little bit. You still had that in you, but you're mostly a mage. Now that brings us to one of the more potent schools of magic in 5e D&D.
That's going to be Divination. Now, I've seen some characters seriously focus on the Divination aspect, having those re-roll or those rolls that you get to decide each day and be like, I'm going to use these in place of, here, there, or what have you. And this is going to mix really well with any character, but even better with a barbarian.
Yeah, so second level, you start off right from the bat with the Portent ability. You get 2 uses of it. 14th level, you get a 3rd use of it. You're just going to roll those d20s and set them aside. Use them when you want. You can use them while you're raging, so that works out really well.
Super helpful to just be able to be like, hey, look, that natural 20 you used? Nah, that's a 7 that I saw earlier.
Or if you had a natural 20 and you're like, oh, it's good, this would be a good time to crit. Also great for a barbarian. So next, let's look at our 6th level ability, and this one's not going to be super useful for our barbarian, especially while they're raging.
What do we get?
So we get Expert Diviner, right? It's a great ability, and basically you get back some spell slots when you cast divination spells. But we're probably not going to be casting them while we're raging. We're absolutely not going to be casting them while we're raging. So for the mix, it doesn't work out that well.
But, there are some divination spells that do work well outside of combat. So again, just like with the Abjurer, if you're outside of combat and using magic to aid what's going on, you can be that, out of combat caster.
Absolutely. So finally, our 10th level ability is the Third Eye. And this is an awesome ability because you're not actually casting spells. It's more like a spell-like ability. And even when you turn it on, it tends to last a long time.
All right. So this is going to give you a swath of choices. So you're going to choose one of the following abilities that you can get. So one of them is Dark Vision. So if you're playing that human barbarian, here's a great way to just alleviate that issue. Yeah, I got Dark Vision now. I can just turn it on. You also got the ability to go Ethereal Sights. You can see 60 feet into the ethereal plane. Super helpful if you're going against, that kind of a creature.
You're also going to get Comprehension, which is kind of funny for a barbarian because it basically means they can read everything and anything, and then see invisibility. Super useful, raging or not, and to see if people are sneaking up on you. These are great abilities because they last until you're incapacitated or until you take a rest. So they're going to be super useful. I mean, in theory, you could even turn them on while you're raging. Probably not the best use of your action as a barbarian. But hey, if someone starts sneaking around and you haven't used it yet and you have invisible foes, why not?
I kind of see this as funny as, if you turn on the see invisibility or the ethereal sight, but you're playing that typical barbarian, you might wind up be like, oh, you attack the creature or you attack what's there, but you don't warn your friends about it because it's like, well, I could see him. Why couldn't you?
Well, oddly enough, for some odd reason, the Incredible Hulk always has the ability to see ethereal creatures and astral creatures, and it makes me think of that for some reason.
So next, we're going to move on to our final wizard school. Dave mentioned something about the gray area, so that kind of, says, well, what about necromancy?
So necromancy is, it's another kind of pet class where you summon creatures, you control creatures and have them with you. So I kind of say, well, you know what? You could definitely do that stuff out of combat. And then when you enter combat, you have your undead that are fighting beside you. So it kind of works. Now, your second level ability is Grim Harvest. Not going to be useful while raging.
So, you're not going to be casting the spells that, the Grim Harvest would wind up working on, unless you wanted to kind of, pick and choose how you're going to use these abilities. But I think, a Barbarian Necromancer totally fits, the shaman type, evil humanoids could totally fit into that, whether you want to go, gnolls or orcs. Totally see something like that happening.
Yeah, thematically, the Witch Doctor, it definitely works. So next is our 6th level ability, which does work pretty well. So at 6th level, you get Undead Thralls, right? So you're not going to be using this while you're raging, but what it does allow you to do is create more undead. When you do animate undead, you get animate undead into your spell book. While you won't be using it while you're raging, but you will have more access to more undead. So when you do rage and you want to fight and you want to have friends with you, you're going to have more of them.
So as a barbarian, you're going to be, pretty in the thick of it, being able to bring down, your adversaries, and, why not, kick them while they're down, and after the battle, rise them up.
So they can join you on your next Rage Fest.
Absolutely.
Your 10th level ability, Inured to Undeath, is resistance to necrotic damage, and you can't have your maximum hit points lowered. Both of these are great abilities.
There's a lot of spells out there that, your big bads are going to be casting that can reduce those maximum hit points. And as a barbarian, you need everyone that you're going to get. So having those things added to your rage abilities, super helpful.
Yeah, and not only that, a lot of undead have that ability to lower your maximum hit points too.
So finally, at 14th level, we're going to get the ability to command undead.
Now, this one you could actually do while you're raging. Again, you do have rage restrictions, so you always need to be attacking or taking damage. So anytime you do an action that doesn't involve attacking, it does open up the possibility of coming out of your rage. But basically, when you encounter undead that either free-willed or under the control of other casters, you can kind of take control of them. So you could even do this while you're raging.
Here's another great way that you could be 6 levels of barbarian, 14 levels of caster, and while raging, you're going to have all the typical resistances that you would have. But why not have a slew of undead following you around, absorbing attacks, and you just call a new one when that one dies.
Absolutely. So the question is, what kind of barbarians are you playing in your games? Have you played a wizard barbarian before? How did it work out? We got a place where you can discuss it. That is down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
On your way down there, don't forget to stop by the description and check out that link to Nerdarchy's Patreon.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.